everybody, Steven here, back again with another discussion about action figures. Today I was thinking to just start part one of the discussion about Batman figures from a line called The Legends of Batman. This line came out in the around mid-90s, and due to the popularity of Batman, which was pretty high at that time due to the 1989 Batman movie, and of course the subsequent Batman movie and Batman animated series. This particular line, among others, was born at that time because the Batman toys were dominating the toy aisles at that point. So this particular one, as I mentioned, is called Legends of Batman, and what it practically consists of is just a bunch of figures made by Kenner, predominantly showing off different variations of Batman through time. So going as far back as Egyptian times, trying to tell the collectors or the kids that Batman practically, or incarnation of Batman, existed in all time periods throughout human history, and that he was always a crusader who was fighting against the evil in the world and so forth. And I believe that some of these figures were also based on some of the comic books about Batman, sort of set in an alternate realities or elseworlds, if I can call them that way. So the toy line itself was dominated by, as I mentioned, by a lot of different Batmans, and a few of the villains that made it in, and even fewer versions of Robin, and another one or two supporting characters such as Azrael and Nightwing. So let's take a closer look at some of these, and this will be only part one of the discussion on this toy line. So we'll start with the Egyptian Batman, or the Pharaoh Batman, who came in a 2-pack together with the Egyptian Catwoman. So they were packaged together. And one thing to note about these figures, or any of these figures from this line, is that they had a very limited articulation, and most of them would come pre-posed. In other words, practically half crouching in their knees, and there would be practically almost no articulation in the legs to speak of, because these are the early days of not very articulated figures compared to, let's say today's standards. And of course, when they're crouched like that, then some of them would have a very hard time standing properly without keeling over soon after. But it's still possible to pose some of them if you just find and fiddle around a bit and find the right pose. They didn't come with any plastic stands, by the way. So Pharaoh Batman, Egyptian Pharaoh Batman, came with a staff which is very easily bendable, as you can see, and you got disfigured again. An Egyptian staff that comes with a Batman symbol on top, and that would be his only accessory. He came, well, there is one more accessory and it's not a weapon, so that would be his Pharaoh helmet that's shaped like a bat, or at least has a face of a bat on top here. He also comes with a removable cape made of rubber, and the figure itself has had articulation in the arms so that you can put them up and down. The head was able to move 360 degrees around like that. The legs would sort of move on the side, but that wouldn't really contribute anything other than not being able to stand at all. So there was no use in the articulation in the legs, not much really. He had some details engraved on his armor. There would be a Batman sign, and also another one on the buckle of his belt, and a long blue sash, and the regalia that he's wearing on his costume is reminiscent of the Egyptian time. So there is bits and pieces here and there. Of course, the gloves would resemble more of Batman himself than any pharaoh. But the idea was to just try and fit him into that time period. So both of these figures, as many of the figures in this particular line, they all came with collector cards representing the figure in a color drawing. I don't have any of those because I got these loose, so I didn't manage to get any of those cards. Anyhow, let's move on to Egyptian Catwoman. She's also pre-posed, as you can tell. She comes with one weapon, which is sort of like a battle staff that has a cat's tail at the end, or it resembles a cat's tail at the end. And the main part of the weapon is this enormous exaggerated cat's claw, with the claws as well painted in a sort of a silver or gold color to it. She also comes with a removable helmet just like Batman's, and the helmet itself is shaped like a cat's face. She also has an additional headgear that's molded onto her head, and she has a short hair. Now, again, the particular bits and pieces are all molded onto her costume, so there is some detail there. And her shoes, or how would I even call them, they have attached cat's claws on the feet, at the end of the feet right here. They are molded in part of the foot. And she has also a rubber tail, cat's tail, that's molded at the back. It's made of a very soft rubber. The weapon is removable, by the way. And the last part about her hands is that she has these blades molded on the ends of her hands, so she would practically look like Wolverine, or a female Wolverine, or more like the daughter of Wolverine, DX-23. So that would be one 2-pack. Of course, there were others, and the second 2-pack I had, the rest of them I have are all were all single-carded figures, would be Pirate Two-Face versus Swashbuckling Batman. They both came in the same packaging. Now, the silly thing is, Two-Face looks a lot taller than Batman because Two-Face is made to stand straight, he's not crouching, while Batman is crouching and he looks a lot smaller, therefore, than his opponent. So let's start talking about Batman first. Batman is wearing a type of clothing for that roughly could be placed somewhere around 1700s by the looks of it. He comes with a smaller sword and a longer one, and these are the kind of swords that are used in the, let's say, in a sport like fencing. So he would use them to fight the Two-Face, and of course the purpose of the smaller one, a shorter sword would be to block the enemy's sword, or at least trap the enemy's sword in order to deliver the deadly blow with the longer one. He comes with a molded belt that has a molded small knife tucked in the belt, the Buccaneer boots, and the articulation is pretty limited altogether, so he cannot do a whole lot other than to move his arms somewhat. But he does have a saving grace, and of course the head can move as well. He has an action feature, and the cape can be removed as well. So there is an opening here to accommodate this big button at the back of him. What is the purpose of that button, you're wondering? Well, some of these figures, including Buccaneer Batman here, or the Swashbuckling Batman, would have an action feature built into the figure. So that knob at the back of him, when rolled, would show you the feature. It's either going to be a knob that you have to turn or a button that you have to press. So in his case, when you roll it, he's showing his awesome skills with his fencing sword. So that's the good part that would make this figure more interesting than being just a small size statue. So we'll take a look at the Two-Face. And this was the only Two-Face figure made in this line, and it was only made specifically for the pirate team, rather than to show him in his classic look. For those of you who are not familiar with Two-Face, he's one of the classic enemies of Batman in the comics. His real name is Harvey Dent. He used to be a district attorney prosecutor who would chase all the criminals and put them in jail through the courtroom. And one time he did manage to put a dangerous criminal and find him guilty in the courtroom and have him put in jail for good. Well, that particular criminal didn't like that. He felt very angry about it, so what he did to get revenge on Harvey Dent, he splashed him with a bottle of acid right in the face and managed to completely and permanently disfigure one side of him. After that incident, Harvey Dent was not the same person anymore. He mentally went off completely, not being able to get a hold of himself any longer. And he became permanently a criminal known as Two-Face. He would wear clothes just like in this pirate version of Two-Face that would match his human side, and the other side that would match his deformed, monstrous side. Now back to the pirate Two-Face here. Unlike Batman that I already mentioned over there, Two-Face was made to stand straight without crouching, and in this case it's much easier to pose him, but he also has very simple limited articulation, and he also has an action feature like the Batman. Now you can see the buckle. There is some detail in the buckle and in the other half of the buckle, and of course the contrast between the costume on the left and on the right in the color. He also has on the human side he has a normal leg, he has a pirate boots, and then on the right hand, on the left side, he has the wooden leg that would mark most of the pirate captains. He has a very strange weapon that consists of a sword, but it also has a hook. So they were going for a classic pirate captain of the pirates look, except he doesn't have any beard, so he wouldn't be able to be called Blackbeard, but close enough. What's the feature, the action feature in this figure, you wonder? Well, there is again a knob at the back of him here, and when you move that knob, his dual weapon will spin, and he would be able to parry any of the attacks by swashbuckling Batman and inflict some serious damage with these two. And they can be pressed together like this to just form a single weapon. He didn't come with any, let's say, pirate guns or anything like that, but I think he looks fine just with these two, and the fact that he has an action feature. Anyway, going to the next figure of a bad guy again from the pirate team, that would be Joker. He was packed as a single-carded figure, and he's very tall. He even wears the pirate boots, and his costume is in his classic colors. There is some green, and there is especially purple. And he comes with only one accessory, which is this enormous pirate gun that has 6 barrels molded into one, and the firing dart that comes out of it when you press a button on top, and it will just fly out. At this point in time, many of the figures or action figures would all have that kind of feature, always a spring-loaded gun or spring-loaded missile or things of that sort. It has a very small, tiny handle for Joker to hold it in his right hand, and he would be only able to hold it in that hand due to the fact that the other hand is a closed fist, so he cannot hold anything there. He has a pirate hat with a feather and a letter J molded onto the hat, as a sort of a big yellow medallion of a sort. He also has big smiley mouth, Joker style, molded as the actual buckle on his sash that's around his waist. He even has the small poisonous flower. It's not actually poisonous, it usually has acid in it. And the articulation is same old, in the sense of legs and arms moving up and down, and the head, well, actually in his case he cannot move the head left to right due to the very long molded hair that he has that blocks any movement of the head left to right. His shoulders are also positioned in a very strange way. He almost looks like he's crooked in the shoulders because the left side of his shoulder is pointing all the way up while the right side is slouched all the way down. I'm not really sure why did they molded him or posed him that way. But I mean, other than that, he can still pass. He's still a pretty solid figure. So let's move on to the last two figures as far as this first bunch goes, and that would be Buccaneer Batman and Buccaneer Robin. So let's just put the Joker here. And let's take a look at the Buccaneer Batman first. There he is. Buccaneer Batman comes with two weapons. One of them is the pirate / buccaneer saber that has a pretty sizable handguard on the front, and he also comes with this chain ball attached to a handle that he can also swing in the battle. Sometimes it makes me think that this chain ball would probably more resemble a smaller cannonball if it was painted in a black color. He also has a cross belt like buccaneers and pirates would, and the batarang is molded under the red sash on his waist, and the sash is a very long one. It goes all the way winding behind his legs. Now the color scheme is pretty much like a classic Batman would look. There is a mix of gray and blue, and he also has a rubber cape that's at the back of him here. Sorry, it goes all the way at the back. Now this particular cape, for some reason, which I'm not really sure why, cannot be easily removed. I tried to remove mine, but it's sort of molded right under his chin in such a way that you cannot really flip it over his head. So I wouldn't really force it, not unless some of you know how to do it. And his weapons can be only held in his right hand. The left hand is incapable of holding any weapons because it's just a flat hand. He cannot hold nothing in it. He does have an action feature just like some of the other figures, and I'll just show you with let's say his saber. So this time, instead of a wheel that can turn at his back, there is a button. So this is what happens when you press the button. He would make a slashing movement over the enemy, and that's pretty neat. And the last one that I'm going to cover for today is Buccaneer Robin, also packed as an individual figure. He comes with two weapons. He also comes with the Buccaneer saber, sizably large one. He also comes with the mini cannon that he can carry in his right hand, that comes loaded with a cannonball that also has a lot of chains attached to it at the bottom. And of course, when you trigger the little button here, the cannonball will come out. So there, it's a very long one. And you can, since it's spring loaded, you can easily load it up. He also comes with a cross belt and a red shirt, green pants, and dark blue boots. He also has a cape. He even has a molded Buccaneer earring on his left side, and he's able to hold weapons in each of his hands. So he has that dual purpose in that sense. He can fight with double the power. And he comes also with the rubber cape that is removable, at least in his case it is, unlike the Batman, and it can be easily reattached back on him. And I'll also mention the fact that the articulation is also the same as all these other figures. He also has a ponytail sculpted at the back of his head. So yeah, this theme of historical looking Batmans, Jokers and Robins and Catwomans is actually the best part of this line, and there is a couple of more versions that I will talk about in my second video. So I would say the Kenner did a pretty good job for the figures, for what they were and what they are. So next time I will tell you a bit more about some of the other historical versions of Batman, and at least one or two of Robin. And I believe there should be, at least aside from that second one, at least another one or two more videos. So in total there should be, I guess, 3 or maybe 4 videos covering the Legends of Batman. I don't have the complete line, I only have one portion of the figures. So anyway, I do appreciate you guys taking a look at my video here, and I hope to catch you guys again next time. So until then, so long and see you next time. Bye.